I would tell me that feeling, that instant gratification of feeling pretty, feeling beautiful, feeling wanted, because you've just given yourself to somebody, that feeling doesn't last. I would tell you that the older that you get, the better that sex gets, and it's not because you do it for a long time, it's not because you've had a lot of practice, or it's not because you've had a lot of partners. As an adult, sex becomes better because you have more of an understanding of who you are.
Red, red wine, red, red wine, only get better with time, only get better with time. Red, red wine, red, red wine, only get better with time, only get better with time, only get better with
Some girls wonder, other girls whine. Welcome back to Red Wine Girl Time. My name is Saika. Hey y'all, if you are not subscribed to this channel, please be sure to subscribe. I think you're going to love it. Red Wine Girl Time is a young woman's self-empowerment brand. I'm finally starting to put a title to it and figure out what this is. So Red Wine Girl Time is a young woman's empowerment brand, and we promote self-awareness, and we just kind of dive into the things that we were once afraid to talk about, or things that we don't really get the opportunity to dissect. So we do that a lot on this show. So if you are new, once again, please hit that subscribe button. If you are returning, I hope that you're watching this with a friend, and if not with a friend, then with a glass of wine if you are of the legal drinking age wherever you are, which is like 21 in the United States. All right, cool. Just had to get all my legal disclaimers out. Today we are drinking a Malbec from Argentina. This bottle was actually a gift from one of my friends. So it is the Colores del Sol Malbec from Mendoza, Argentina. This is a 2018 vintage. This Malbec is brimming with robust flavors of ripe red cherry, juicy blackberry, and delicate rose petals. I love rose. Sweet oak and mocha with hints of cinnamon and tobacco to round out the finish. Now y'all know I love to check the alcohol content. 13% alcohol by the volume. It's a good bottle. We will not finish this bottle on this episode. We're just gonna work on this glass. Keep it classy, keep it cute. Yeah, so today we are going to have the sex talk. We're gonna have the sex talk. I've been really sitting down and thinking about this and what my idea would be of like an appropriate conversation about sex, not just for someone who's, you know, thinking about having sex or thinking about venturing into that world, but also for those of us who kind of just need a quick reminder of what sex is. The first time that we're introduced to sex is usually on TV, and it's usually by our friends. In high school, there is a sex education class. It's really telling you don't get pregnant. It's telling you if you have sex unprotected, these are all the STDs that you can get. It's telling you to wait as long as you can, and it's telling you don't have sex. When it comes to our peers, sex has always been something that plays heavily, especially on a young woman's self-esteem. So when you're younger, it's, or as a teenager, it's if he likes you, he wants to have sex with you. If you like him, you will have sex with him. If you are pretty or if you are super attractive, then all the boys want to have sex with you. And if you are not attractive, then in order to make up for that, you have sex. Or if you don't feel attractive, or if people don't find you attractive, excuse me, in order to make up for that, you have sex. In music, in hip hop, and in R&B, the facts are that sex sells. And we have been being sold a lot of sex, especially within the past like 5 years. So a few days ago, a young girl hits me up on Instagram. We had connected via Instagram because she watches the show and I hadn't posted in a while. So how we connected was she found my Instagram and she hit me up. She's like, oh my God, like I absolutely love your show. You're like a big sister to me. I hope that you're doing well and that, you know, you'll be back on YouTube soon. So my Instagram platform, because of this show, really opened me up to having some really amazing conversations with girls from all over, which is so crazy to me, to now be developing this brand where girls from all over the world watch it, like tune in, love the show, love the content, and gain something from it. What I didn't realize was that so many girls younger than me were also tuning in. So she's 16 years old. So her and her friend go to a party. They go to a party and there is alcohol and drugs at this party. This is how they choose to have fun. And so apparently her best friend got really high. Whatever drugs she took with this other boy, they both got really high, and the next morning they wake up naked in a bed together. So the girl's parents, her best friend's parents, were very upset, and so now they are accusing this young man of raping her. So the thing about that specific situation is that by law, by definition and by law, if someone is under the influence, they are not in the right frame of mind to give consent. Therefore, it is considered rape. Where the lines get a little bit blurry here is that they both were under the influence. So they both were under the influence, therefore, neither the girl nor the boy could give consent or proper consent. So the important question here was, you know, like, did your friend feel like she was harmed in any way? And she was like, no, it's her parents. Her parents are really blowing it out of proportion. Neither her nor the boy remember what happened. And I'm like, wow, like this is a really like tricky situation. In my opinion, it cancels each other out. However, I recognize, understand, and respect that we have to protect our women, and therefore, from a general consensus, from a general perspective, the girl is going to automatically be the victim in the situation. But the focus of the conversation, aside from the story that she was telling me, she was asking, you know, like, so, like, what are the guidelines for consent, and how do I keep myself from being in a situation like that? So it was important to me as an older woman to not parent her. I didn't want to parent her because you didn't have anybody else, or you trusted, I wouldn't say that you didn't have anybody else to ask this, I would say that you trusted me to give you guidance on this. And it's the same thing as, like, there was a 14-year-old girl in the UK who, like, hits me up about her crush. And so naturally, the adult in us wants to be like, you're too young, you wait, or don't do drugs. Please don't do drugs. But at the end of the day, if people are making choices in their lives and you want to steer them in the right direction, then you can't close them off from coming to you for advice. So I really had to, like, I told her give me 2 hours, but I really didn't respond back to her until the very next day, because initially, like, my reaction is like, don't be in that situation. But again, she wasn't coming to me to parent her. She was coming to me as someone she views as a big sister for advice. So what I responded to her was, so ultimately, if you and a friend go to a party, or you and your friends, it's important that one friend be the designated sober friend. I'm not saying don't have your version of fun, but someone in the group has to take on the task of being responsible and aware enough for everybody else. If a friend is gone for too long, you go check on them. Have these conversations in advance so that you know, okay, my friend doesn't want to A, B, C, and D. Because another question that I asked her, aside from like, you know, did she feel harmed, was, well, did she tell you that she wanted to have sex? And she was like, no, she didn't. Like, that was not one of her, you know, like that wasn't her aim for the night. That's not what she was expecting to go down. So it wasn't that she wanted to have sex. So it's important to, like, you know, have these conversations. Like, okay, Billy Bob is gonna be there. Why would I say Billy Bob? Like, okay, Deshaun is gonna be there. I know you like him. What's up? Like, how do you expect things to play out? So that way, if something like, you know, everybody being drugged and having sex comes into play, you know that, like, I don't even know how to justify that, so I'm not even going to. It's important to have these conversations in advance and to know what your boundaries are for yourself and for your friends, and then that sober friend is going to be responsible, which means that if someone wanders off for too long, or if someone is gone for too long, you can be that friend. Do not be afraid of being perceived as, you know, stuck up or whatever the case may be, or doing too much. If you are the designated friend, you have taken on the responsibility of holding your homegirl down and making sure that she doesn't end up in any situation that she may regret in the end, or also that she doesn't end up in any situation that ultimately makes her feel uncomfortable. I said that's the best advice that I can offer without parenting you, but ultimately and unfortunately, you do have to be realistic and accountable for your decisions and the situations that you open yourself up to. And then I said, does that make sense? And she said, yes, and thank you. And so what I mean by holding yourself accountable for the situations that you put yourself into, I'm definitely not victim shaming. I am not saying that if you get raped, it's your fault. I am not excusing the behavior of men who cannot control themselves. I'm saying that if you go to a party where not only are you under the influence, not only are you, and I low-key didn't even want to drink wine for this episode specifically, but it is a part of like the aesthetic. But I want us to like have a real serious conversation about this. If you are in a situation where you are going to be drinking, if you are in a situation where you are participating in the use of drugs, then going into that, you know that you are not going to be as in control of any situation as you would like to be. So for her, the point of the conversation was less about the situation that her friend was in, and more so about how to avoid being put in that position and how to properly give consent, or how to make sure that she is giving consent before having sex. So that's cool. But then it also opened up the door for me where, like, you know, I was like, wow, like, I didn't really know a lot about sex at 16 years old either. I believe that the real reason why young women end up in these situations, and the reason why we are all walking into intercourse so uneducated, is because especially with, I feel like in our community and with black girls, is because we're not having these conversations. And the reason why we're not having these conversations, the reason why our parents are not educating us, or the adult figures in our life are not educating us on this, is because they just don't want us to have sex. We don't know what the appropriate age is for you to start having sex. Everyone wants you to wait until you're married. The people in your life who love you, the adult figures, they're like, no, just wait till you're married. Like, and if you can wait even after marriage, just don't do it. But that's not realistic. And because you don't want to face the realities, I feel like as a parent, our parents don't want to face the realities of how soon our kids may be having sex. It's easier to avoid acknowledging it altogether. You find out that your kid is having sex, or you find out what's going on, oftentimes by accident, oftentimes by being invasive, your parents find out, or oftentimes by a situation like, you know, like teenage pregnancy coming up. And so a majority of the things that happen to us happen because no one's having this conversation. Okay, so now for the sex talk. I reached out to a couple of my friends and asked them to share just some big sister advice on what they wish they knew before they started having sex.
Before having sex, I wish I knew more about the existence of a female orgasm, and you know, not assuming that sex was whatever you see in old porn, and you know, how important foreplay is, and how sexy telling a guy what you want can be. And also to take my time with it, that it can be powerful when feelings are involved, and it can be fun when you have autonomy about it.
The sex talk that I never had was, you have to know your body. You have to know what works for your body, what doesn't work for your body. You have to know what you like and what you don't like, because that's the only way you're going to get the best experience. You must be comfortable, you must be confident in order to get all that you can get.
So growing up, my parents never really had the talk with me. My mother would kind of be like, okay, so we got to take you to the gynecologist because, you know, you're getting older. Or my dad would be like, okay, we don't want any grandbabies. But they never really had to talk with me. Growing up, like, I really learned about things going to class when we had the sex education classes. But now that I'm older, I would tell, if I had a little sister, I would tell her to definitely take your time. Make sure you love the person. Don't let any guy talk you into doing anything that you don't want to do. And it's about you. It's a shared experience. It takes two people, so don't be afraid to speak up for what you want in this situation.
Hi guys, so if there's anything I wish I knew before I started having sex, and that I wish my parents spoke to me about, especially from my mom's perspective, is STDs. That's a definite like must-have talk. And just like the negative connotations that come with having STDs and people being scared to go in and get tested and not being tested often enough because people hear STDs and they're like, ew, oh my God, like you're infected, or they look at you like there's just a nasty disease. And I think we just definitely need to have more of a talk about STDs and just preventing it from happening, protecting ourselves more, going to get screened with our like significant others, just having that talk with our significant others and just being comfortable enough to have that talk, even with family and friends, about STDs. So that is one thing for sure I wish my parents, and specifically my mom, definitely spoke to me about. It's just STDs.
Again, our parents don't approach this conversation because what is the right age to have the sex talk? Like, I was under the impression that when you get your period, that is when your mom sits you down and has a conversation with you about what this is and what it means. I don't know how it works for boys, but around puberty is when textbook will tell you that it is appropriate to have the sex talk. But in a Black household and in our community, you're not having sex. I'm not opening the idea of it. I'm not letting you explore this idea. And so we don't get to have these conversations. And again, when we do have the conversations, they're really based around the fact of like, just don't do it. So when I was at an age that I became curious about sex and when I started to have sex, I imagined that this is what I wish someone would have told me. I would tell me that feeling, that instant gratification of feeling pretty, feeling beautiful, feeling wanted, because you've just given yourself to somebody, that feeling doesn't last. I would tell you that the older that you get, the better that sex gets, and it's not because you do it for a long time, it's not because you've had a lot of practice, or it's not because you've had a lot of partners. As an adult, sex becomes better because you have more of an understanding of who you are. Sometimes sex is just sex, and it ends up hurting girls in the long run, especially more because we are way more emotionally invested. Women are naturally nurturers, so we become way more emotionally invested than boys do, and so having sex with him is not going to make him like you. And I know that that sounds crazy. I know that that goes against everything that you've probably been told, but having sex with him is not going to make him like you. It does not guarantee that he likes you. It does not guarantee that he is now going to want to spend time with you. Sex is not a guarantee of an emotional attachment to someone that you like. The most important thing to me when I think about the conversation of sex, and something that I wish that I knew, is that, like, you are not obligated. Sex is not a contract. Sex is not a obligation, and sex is not a promise. I would say that sex is not a promise. You can change your mind and you can say no. And that's really something that I really, really wish that I had known, because you think about, like, just situations that you end up in where you're like, I don't really want to do this, but because I've already led this person on, technically speaking, or because I've already said, yes, I want to do this, then I can't change my mind. So I think that one of the most important things that I would say to myself is that, like, you can change your mind. You do not have to do this. Yeah, like, sex is not a promise. Sex is not a promise that you make. And with being able to say no, understand that being able to say no is so powerful. Don't let anybody try to make you feel like you are less than, or you are unworthy, or you are now a dub because you decided that, you know what, I don't want to share this experience with you, because it is an experience. And especially, like, again, like, I'm a believer, like, the older that you get, the better it becomes. And it comes from having a sense of self. It comes from really understanding and really knowing what you like and knowing what you want. And so, yeah, like, it's very, girl, this is hard. I promise you, when I was on the phone with my best friend, like, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna say that, and it's gonna be easy. But, like, really sitting in this space and having to have this conversation, yeah, it's hard. I get it. It really is difficult. What else? I would say that sex is powerful, and from a very unbiased standpoint, women are amazing, and we hold a lot of power, and vaginas rule the world. When you know that, and when you understand that, and when you constantly remind yourself that, you feel less pressured, or yeah, like, you feel less pressured, and you're able to move in a certain way, and you're able to really, really hold on to your light. I would also say that, like, sex definitely changes you, because it definitely heightens your emotion. Like, I promise you, you will be out of control emotionally, because when you're having sex, when you don't have a sense of self, it's easy to be manipulated, it's easy to be controlled, and you don't deserve that. You don't deserve to be manipulated, you don't deserve to be controlled. And I'm not here to say that sex is a horrible thing. Sex is bomb. I love sex. However, I enjoy sex now more that I am in control of it. I am in control of my emotions. I am in control of who I share myself with and who I share my power with. And everybody doesn't deserve that kind of access to you. Yeah, I think that that's all that I got for you. I promise that I did my best. In the comments below, how about that? In the comments below, drop a letter, drop a line, drop a bar. Tell us what you wish you knew, or something that you would tell yourself about sex before you started having sex. And that's how we're going to end it. I'm leaving it up to you. I'm putting it in your hands, making you responsible. Take some partial responsibility for this conversation. Let's really talk about it. What are some things that you wish that you knew about sex before you started having sex? If you haven't visited the Red Wine Girl Time website, I'm actually offering one-on-ones, free one-on-one sessions to just kind of talk, vent, get to know each other. I'm trying to make friends all across the world. So if you go to the website, www.redwinegirltime.com, all spelled out correctly, and you go to the store, you will be able to book a free Skype one-on-one session with me. And I'm really excited about that because I think that the more that I learn about you guys and the more conversations that I have with other women or young women around the world, it broadens my perspective and it allows me to do this more effectively, especially for what this platform is supposed to do, and what I hope to do with this platform. So yes, be sure to check out the website, drop a comment below, give this a thumbs up, share it with your homegirl. I definitely think this is an episode that like you should share with your homegirl. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Saika and I will see you next week Thursday at 10.